Welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson. Delighted to have in the studio with us Dennis Richardson, Representative Richardson, who is now the Republican candidate for governor of the state of Oregon. And he is hot on the trail. He just informed me he's leaving in 3 minutes, whether I'm done with the interview or not.
No,
how are you?
I won't walk out in interviews like the governor did with K2 television.
Yeah. How are you?
Doing fine.
How's it going?
It's going extremely well. All over the state, people are becoming excited about the concept that maybe Oregon can be saved. You know, people have felt disenfranchised for years. Like the governor only represents the I-5 corridor from Eugene north. Right. And that's not the case. You know, he wants a fourth term so that he can see if he can figure out cover Oregon, I think. But the people are done with him, I believe. I think that it's not even going to be close. I believe that we're going to win, and we're going to win substantially as long as we get the message out, which is a challenge. So I would say cover Oregon is the big mess. Is that the one people are responding to, that and maybe jobs? Well, those are the two issues, and education. Cover Oregon is the poster child for fraud, waste, and abuse. And so now you have a sitting governor who's under FBI investigation, his staff. They've had last week a grand jury meeting behind closed doors, taking evidence from his chief of staff and from other executive branch leaders. And you've got the GAO, a federal audit taking place. I mean, the eyes of the country are looking at what happened to what was, it was estimated at $250 million. It's now going to be $300 million burned up on a website project, and we still can't enroll somebody on our website project from beginning to end.
It's amazing. And if there is some kind of a ruling that comes down, the state possibly would have to pay that money back, right?
I don't know. You know, that we have to find out what the truth is. The governor spoke before a legislative committee a couple of weeks ago, and I happened to have been there. I didn't know he was going to speak, but I asked if I could sit with the other legislators. And so he spoke, and he said, we're going to get this money back. We're going after Oracle. And so here you are, 8 months after the failed website, and now he figures out that it's Oracle's fault when Oracle was on a times and material contract. They did not have any responsibility to run anything, only to take direction. And Oracle says there was times when we had 100 of our programmers sitting while behind closed doors there were arguments going on between Cover Oregon and the Oregon Health Authority on whether the name line should be #1 line or should be #3 line. I mean, silly things that would go on because they didn't understand the full impact of what they were trying to accomplish.
Dennis, the bottom line here is the state of Oregon's got to get some new business in town.
That's right.
If we don't start getting some companies moving to this state and make doing business in this state easier, we're in big trouble.
We need to be exporting products and services to other countries and other states, not exporting our kids to other states because they can't get a decent job here.
So, what's the answer to that?
The answer is, first you have to have leadership. Right now we have the management of the status quo. We have Governor Kristopher who wants a fourth term, and yet we've got higher unemployment than national average. We've had that for 16 years. We need to remove the barriers to businesses, invite entrepreneurs and investors and innovators and inventors. We want them to come to Oregon. Instead, we drive them away because of our barriers, the regulations, the delays, all the permits, all the fees. I mean, if Phil Knight was a young man trying to put together a company today like he did before, he wouldn't be able to do it.
All right, so what's the deal about education? Why is that the top of the list?
Well, Governor Kristopher ran saying, I will be the education governor. And what was his solution? We bring in Rudy Crew at $284,000 a year for part-time to fix education. And after a year, he leaves, and the governor then hires a very qualified woman and gives her 70% of the pay. I mean, it's really funny. The problem is that we have 48th in the nation in graduation rates. I mean, almost a third of Oregon students are not graduating with their classmates. We need to ensure that there's equal educational opportunity for all students, that the future of a student should not be determined by the zip code that their parents happen to live in.
All right, let me give you a hypothetical. You and the governor are in your first debate. Have you had one yet?
No, July 18th.
July 18th, where?
It'll be Bend. It's the Newspaper Publishers Association, and they're having a convention.
Okay. What's he going to throw at you?
I think he's going to say I'm too conservative for our state.
Oh, I just want to know.
I think that, I don't know what he can come up with. We've done our own adversarial research on me, and it hasn't turned up much because, you know, I've tried to live a good life. You know?
You've done that very well. Let me ask you this. You have gone on record saying that you warned the governor over and over and over about Cover Oregon.
Yes.
I would assume you have an email trail of this.
Absolutely.
Can you produce those in a debate?
Oh, absolutely. And in fact, he told K2 News up in Portland that he didn't know about the problems until October of last year, meaning after the launch date. And this is his legacy project, and he didn't know till after the launch date that there was a problem. Well, they started snooping around. They finally made their way to me because I had been the co-chair of Ways and Means, and I said, that's ridiculous. I sent letters to him in September of 2012, more than a year before the launch date failed. I talked to him personally in front of a witness. I gave them copies, and that began the kind of the revelation that here's a governor who's not honest about what he's done wrong, who's not taken responsibility, who has been away without leave. You know, I mean, the guy was AWOL. He's committed gubernatorial malpractice, and he's got to admit that to waste $350 million of taxpayer money, I mean, that's 3,000 teachers for a year. I mean, what could we have done with $300 million, and it's just like a huge, huge pile of money, and just lighting it and watching it burn up because it's doing us no good.
Do you think the state needs to be trimmed down as far as state government is concerned? Is it too big?
Oh, absolutely.
So what would you do?
Well, we need to analyze every program and every agency and ask the question, if this program did not exist today, would we create it? And if the answer is no, then why are we funding it? And so we need to prioritize and have the courage and the ability to actually defund those things that have outlived their usefulness, take that money and apply it to our top priorities.
Whatever happened to wage and hiring freezes?
No, it was only talk. There was step increases. It's always about looking like you're doing something relevant, not about actually doing it under the current leadership.
And the other thing is, it appears that we've had these issues before. We're going to do administrative oversight, and somehow that never gets done. But a lot of these agencies can raise their own fees, can impose some heavy fines and things like that. Can that be brought back in for review? It
really can. The governor names over 300 individuals to boards and commissions, and they have a lot of power. And we need to review these things. It's been over 20 years that we've been building this bureaucracy, and so you have middle management and leaders that have not been elected who assume tremendous amounts of power. And that needs to change. We need to be evaluating the whole concept of what's fair for both sides in each of these boards and commissions.
All right, so you're in your closing comment of your first debate. And why should we send John Kitzhaber packing and elect Dennis Richardson?
What I will say is that John Kitzhaber has made promises that he's broken. He's promised to oversee the government, and yet we have wasted money, hundreds of millions of dollars on the Columbia River crossing, on the Cover Oregon. A recent one that's just shown is $71 million wasted on a project, an IT project for Health and Human Services. It is a disaster that we cannot afford John Kitzhaber for a fourth term. It's like baseball, 3 strikes and you're out, John.
Okay. By the way, the bridge thing. Is that going to go anywhere? Is Oregon and Washington going to work this out or not?
Well, eventually. I mean, one of the responsibilities for government is to build bridges. I mean, it's infrastructure. And so now you have some legislators from Oregon and some legislators from Washington getting together and saying, okay, we know we've got a 100-year-old bridge. It's not about light rail like the last project. What are we going to do to lessen traffic, to ensure safety, and to plan for the next 100 years?
Okay. You've traveled to China.
Yes.
And you see some real opportunities there.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we buy products that are made in China. We send our dollars to China. We want to make sure that those dollars come back not just to buy American products, to buy Oregon products. And so I've been on 11 trade delegations, 10 I've organized, where we take Oregon producers, products and services, business owners and legislators to China to help them understand that we are in business. We want them to come to Oregon. We want them to buy our products and services and bring those dollars back into Oregon. The key to jobs for Oregon is expanding our GDP, because when you have companies that are selling more, they have to hire more, and that's the key for family wage-paying jobs.
I know you're on it. I'm going to let you go after this question. Governor Perry has done a phenomenal job going into other states and getting businesses to move over. Why not? I mean, is there a model in Texas that we could implement in Oregon to get more companies to come here and do business?
Well, absolutely. But what they did in Texas is they removed the barriers to business and made it inviting for businesses to come. Now, we happen to have we have such a beautiful state with the geography.
Who would want to live here?
That's right. I think we go to Texas and say, now you've been in Texas for a couple of years, maybe you want to take a look at Oregon.
Yeah, you're hot and dry. Come on up north.
I lived there in flight school when I was training to fly helicopters for the Army, and it's a pretty severe climate there.
All right. I know you got to go. How do people get a hold of you? Want to work with your campaign?
Well, I'd love to have help if they would call 541-601-0083.
Okay.
That's 601-0083. Or if they go to DennisRichardson.com. Okay. And we need volunteers. We need people that would be able to spend 3 hours a week or more, because we need to get the message out, and we're going to do it in several different ways. We also need contributions.
Sure.
The money is the lifeblood of a campaign.
Sure.
We have to get the message out in Portland. That's very expensive. Yeah. DennisRichardson.com would help.
All right. Best to you, friend. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paulina, and I work at the Dove TV. Did you know that when you support the Dove TV, you have a profound impact, not only in our community, but around the world? It's your continued support that takes the inspiration and hope in the programs we produce and makes them available to the thousands of people who are watching these videos online every week. Help bring encouragement and hope to our valley and beyond by making a secure online donation today at our website, thedove.us.
Welcome back. It's always an honor to have back with us David Rubin, who's the former mayor of Shiloh, Israel. He also heads up the Shiloh Israel Children's Fund. He's authored several books, Peace for Peace, Israel in the Middle East, and he's a great friend of this ministry, and we enjoy our partnership together. And David, nice to see you, my friend. I did not know that the defeat of Majority Leader Eric Cantor in the House of Representatives was such a big thing in Israel. Why?
Well, I don't know if it's such a big thing, but it certainly has been spoken about quite a bit. A lot of the you have to remember that in Israel, the focus is not on the Tea Party or right-wing, left-wing politics in America. The focus is on Israel, how events around the world affect Israel, how events in the United States affect Israel. And of course, we being a Jewish country, we view things through Jewish eyes. And Eric Cantor happens to be Jewish. That's not why he was defeated, and it certainly isn't why he was elected previously. But nonetheless, the fact that there now is not any Republican congressman that is Jewish, so it attracts attention in Israel.
It appears his defeat was primarily over the immigration issue more than anything else, and I realize that's significant here in the States, but does it bother you that we have there is not a Jewish congressman in the GOP now?
Well, let's put it this way. I think it would be better, and I agree with you, by the way, that he was defeated for issues that have nothing to do with Israel, and whether it's immigration or losing touch with constituents or not being strong enough in opposition to Obama, or being too compromising with the Obama administration. I think those are the more likely reasons, of course. But the fact that there is no Jewish congressman from the Republican Party now is it's definitely an issue, an electoral issue that the Democrats are going to be using as a hammer over the heads of the Republicans when they're appealing for Jewish votes. Now, having said that, I think it's important to point out that what is really important is not the Jewish or ethnic quality of the congressmen or the candidates. What is most important is where they stand on Israel. That's what Israel cares about. Obviously, there are some Jewish people for whom Israel is not a top issue, but for us who live here in Israel, who look to America for support, whether it's moral support or other kinds of support, I think that the fact that there are people in the Democratic Party who are very strong supporters of Israel, and in many cases they are far more supportive than Democrats who may happen to be Jewish. Well, that's what really matters to us. I judge people by their actions,
right,
not by their religion or their ethnicity.
The Republican Party seems to be going through a purging unlike anything we've ever seen before, and maybe the Cantor race is a little bit of an indication of what's coming. If that is the case, then maybe you are going to get a more pro-Israel Republican Congress, just based upon the fact that more grassroots evangelicals now seem to be stepping up who are pro-Israel, which is a contrast to where the administration is.
Well, that there's no question about. Look, I have always realized, I've long realized that in the Republican Party, there is a very strong Christian Zionist element, and that Christian Zionist element is usually the most supportive of Israel, and there's no question about that. I've seen that in material support for my organization, the Shiloh Israel Children's Fund, and which gets a lot of strong support from Christian Zionists. I've seen that in the people who invite me onto their radio shows and television shows. It very often is people who are very strong Christians who happen to also be very pro-Israel.
David,
there's no question.
What's the feel in Israel right now with what's happening in Iraq and the rise of ISIS and our administration seemingly folding their hands?
Well, I think we need to look at Iraq in the long term. The problem in Iraq has always been that the United States has been giving support to the wrong people. The United States should not be involved in Iraq when it comes to supporting Sunni Muslims who are fighting against Shiite Muslims. And the United States should not be in Iraq supporting Shiite Muslims against Sunni Muslims. It's a waste of American money, it's a waste of American effort, and certainly before it was a waste of American troops and American lives. The Shiite Muslims and the Sunni Muslims are both not friends of the United States, are both not friends of the West, and it's foolish to be involved there supporting them. What I would recommend strongly, and I have said this for a long time, is that the United States should be supporting the Kurds, because the Kurds are the only faction in Iraq. There are basically three strong factions. They're the only faction that's pro-American, that's pro-Western, more or less. And that's who the United States should be supporting. The Kurds are ensconced in a very important region where there are a lot of oil fields. And I think that that's where the United States supports to be going. It's foolish for the United States to be supporting Shiites against Sunnis or to be supporting Sunnis against Shiites. It's foolish. Completely foolish.
Can you give us an indication? Does Israel at the moment feel somewhat abandoned by the United States?
Well, in general, I mean, it doesn't relate to Iraq, of course, but in general, Israel has not had a strong relationship with the United States for about 6 years now. Generally, even though the Bush administration was not that great for Israel, I mean, they were still pushing this whole ridiculous Palestinian state on Israel. But the Obama administration has been a total disaster. The pressure has just been revved up a notch, and the pressure on Israel not to defend itself, the pressure on Israel when Israel does defend itself not to defend itself, and the pressure on Israel not to allow any Jews to build in Israel's capital or in Israel's biblical heartland. And it's totally discriminatory policies that a black president should know better about. But then again, it's not a question of, it's not discrimination that he was ever against. President Obama has always been against Israel, and he's always been pro-Islamic world.
Yeah,
so that's what focus is on, supporting the Islamic world, not supporting Israel.
Yeah, I'm saddened to agree with you on that. I really am. Tell us about a few moments we have left. What people can do to help you with the Shiloh Israel Children's Fund.
Well, the best thing to do is to go to our website. And the website is Shiloh, S-H-I-L-O-H, IsraelChildren.org. ShilohIsraelChildren.org. They can go there and they can get all kinds of information at ShilohIsraelChildren.org about the Shiloh Israel Children's Fund that supports terror victim children, that heals trauma in terror victim children, and through all of our projects we are rebuilding the biblical heartland of Israel.
Thank you.
That would be my main recommendation, to go to the website ShilohIsraelChildren.org. By the way, to find out more about my books, The Islamic Tsunami, or God, Israel, and Shiloh, or Peace for Peace, all of three of those books, you can get information, or you can purchase them through the other website, which is davidrubinisrael.com. That's David Rubin, spelled R-U-B-I-N, davidrubinisrael.com.
David, thank you for your time. I know you have a tight schedule. Blessings on you. Let's stay in touch, and we'll talk again soon, okay?
Thank you. It was good to be with you today.
All right, God bless. All right, we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Daniel and I work at the Dove TV. You know, compared to Portland, Seattle, and LA, Medford might be considered a small market, but at the Dove, we're excited about the opportunity to make a big impact right here in our community. And you help make that happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us now by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or by phoning 541-776-5368.
Welcome back. Delighted to have in the studio with us today Marc Wells and Kristopher Ballard. Marc is the producer of the new movie called Courage of Two, and Kristopher is the director. Both these gentlemen are here to announce, I guess, the public release when tomorrow?
Tomorrow night at 7 p.m. we will be at the Smolin Center on the Rogue Regional Medical Center campus.
That's wonderful. All right. Well, tell us a little bit about it, Kristopher.
It was a film that Marc came up with in 2012, and once we got the script done, we needed to raise money. So the first thing we had to do was shoot a trailer for Kickstarter, and just went from there. Once we got some funding to get the film started, it went smooth sailing from there. So
give us the story behind it, Marc.
The story is that about 10 years ago, my son was rushed into the hospital with he was blacking out, and we found that he had type 1 diabetes. And while he was there was a little boy that had no hair, and he was watching over him, and for about 2 or 3 days he just kept peeking in his room. And then when my son woke up, the two became really good friends. They started doing a lot of things together in the hospital, and that went on for about 5 weeks.
Wow.
And my son started getting healthier, and his friend unfortunately had cancer, and he was 6 years old. He made it about 5 more months, and then when we got the news that Patrick had passed, my son was like, well, what can I do to help? And he grabbed his little red wagon and he started pulling it around Medford, and he collected soda cans for about 2 years. And after 2 years, he, with the help of the community and with what he had collected, he sent a check to St. Jude St. Jude Children's Hospital for almost $10,000.
Wow, that's that is oh, I don't want you to give the whole story.
Right,
you want people to go see it.
Sure.
But you've been working on this for quite a while, Kristopher, and I don't know, did you film most of it here?
Yes, all of it here in the Southern Oregon area.
Really?
Grants Pass, Medford. Where else do we?
Weimer.
Weimer, yeah, out in Weimer, yeah, that's right.
So what are we going to see at the showing tomorrow night?
The trailer for sure.
Yeah.
A clip from the film. We have a music video and behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes,
yeah.
Wow. Is it tough working with kids?
I'll let Kristopher answer that one.
It wasn't bad at all.
Really?
It went pretty smooth. We even had animals on set. We had a big, George?
We had the Great Dane, George the Great Dane.
George the Great Dane. What was he, 200 pounds? Or?
Almost 182. And we had horses. And
yeah, horses, yeah, that's right.
So when do you think the whole thing's going to be done? What's your game plan here?
I'll have the preliminary edit done August 1st or so, and then that's just the video of it, and then the sound and the color grading will be done in August in Budapest.
Mark, what do you want to have happen with this film? What's your goal? What's your heart goal on this?
You know, we started thinking about our direction of filmmaking, and what we want to do is we want to write films that inspire people to, they call them to action. And we are hoping that somebody will take away from this film and they will say, wow, what would I do for somebody else? When, you know, what would you sacrifice for another human being? And
you know, there seems to be a real appetite for I say family-friendly films, but things that are just in the realm that you're dealing with here, somebody helping somebody else, very benevolent. I mean, I guess we could use the word clean film. There seems to be a real appetite for it now. Is that what you're sensing?
We are, and Chris has done a lot of research, and well, with where our hearts are at anyway, we would love to do that anyway. So that's a plus. But it seems that that is one of the 3 biggest genres for independent film.
Now, you're living this twice. You lived it in real life, and you're living it again, right? I mean, this is a story about your son.
Yes.
And now you're living it again. What's your son doing now?
My son, he goes to Crater High School. He's a wrestler, and he is getting ready to restart his Cans for Cancer campaign, but it'll be on a much larger level. And in fact, when we're hoping that the film does get good distribution, because we want to help Denver with his Cans for Cancer, and Denver has decided that what he wants to do now that he's older and he saw what happened with Patrick. The problem is that we have a major children's hospital on the other end of the state, so there's many families that are here that have to go to that hospital that don't have the funding for gasoline or whatever, and he wants to be able to help Southern Oregon families.
This is amazing. All right, so anyway, let me just say that the premiere showing, or the public premiere showing of the trailer, is that right? Am I getting that right?
That's correct.
That's tomorrow evening at the Smullen Center. That'll be at 7 o'clock, and that's there on campus there at the Medical Center, just across the parking lot there. And is there a charge, or all invite, or what do you do here?
It's open invite to the public, well up to 500 seats anyway.
Yeah.
And there's no charge, and we want people to come out and see what our project is, and just we need the public support to just get behind us.
A lot of work, aren't they?
Very much.
Yeah. We got some experience in this, our family does too, and I thought, man, there's just nothing simple. What you learn when you're doing a film, that there's another feeling that comes out of it. The one that you weren't kind of looking for kind of evolves out of it. Did you experience that?
Well, kind of, but I already knew the direction that we wanted to go with the film, and I had written it, and then I went back and did a rewrite, and then I gave it to Chris, and he said, Mark, I have to write it from a director's point of view to make it flow better. So he did move things around. That was a little difficult to watch. So there was some give and take in the film, and so although
but the message wasn't compromised.
The message wasn't compromised, and one of the beautiful things that came out of the film was that a little girl was following us from Idaho. She was following our Facebook page. She actually had the same tumor that Patrick did.
Oh, wow.
And we lost her in March, and so we did a scramble and we rewrote a scene just for her, involving horses because of her love for horses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we're going to dedicate part of the movie to her.
Oh,
so,
wow.
yeah.
Well, thank you guys for sneaking in here real quickly. And again, Marc Wells and Kristopher Ballard with us today. The movie's entitled Courage of Two, and the premiere public release of the trailer will be tomorrow night there at the Smolin Center at 7 o'clock. It's free to the public, so get there early and get a good seat. Thanks, guys, for coming in. I can't wait till it's all done.
And, Perry, I hope you like us on Facebook with Courage of Two as well.
Okay, we'll do it. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paula, and I work at the Dove TV. Every day we get letters and emails from people who've been encouraged, blessed, and challenged by the programs on the Dove TV. But we couldn't do it without you. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to bring inspiration and hope to our community by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or call us at 541-776-5368.
Welcome back. Delighted to have back with us today Dr. Karl Benzio. He's an MD and a psychiatrist, executive director and founder of Lighthouse Networks, and his experience includes teaching pastors and ministry leaders and student counseling in conflict resolution. But today we're going to talk a little bit about fathering and Father's Day this past weekend and some of the signs there. Karl, nice to see you again. How you doing, my friend?
Hey, great to be with you guys, Perry. Thanks.
Good to see you. Well, listen, you're talking about here some of the scary sides of parenting teens. Lead us down this road. What's on your mind?
Well, you know, fathering is just such an important and powerful and unique role that we have as men. And, you know, I think we see it in our society whenever fathers aren't available, and we have so many single-parent families and absent fathers. And we see the destruction that occurs when a child doesn't have that special empowerment, that validation from that authority and the leader of the house. You know, mother always going to give love. You sort of expect that from mothers. But there's a special communication that comes from a father that just doesn't come from anybody else, and imparts some self-confidence and self-esteem and skills to a child that just can't be replaced. And you know, as a father and as I work with different men and their fathering, you know, there's three important roles that we have: an instructor, an influencer, and an interpreter. And so, you know, those are key roles that we have in a child's life. And a couple different things that a person can do is, you know, we often, as fathers and as parents in general, look at obedience to be a primary calling for our kids, and we're pushing obedience and following, whether it's homework, whether it's chores, whether it's their speech and, you know, how they address their parents. But so much more important than obedience is relationship. And, you know, and God, you know, if you look at God, you know, sure, he'd like to have relationship with us and our obedience, but if he had to choose one or the other, he would choose having relationship with us over obedience. And as we look at the Pharisees were obedient, but really weren't engaged in relationship. And as parents, I think sometimes because we want to instruct them well, we want them to learn what it takes to be a good, you know, honorable citizen, adult, you know, godly decision maker, we sort of err on the side of always pushing the obedience and the to-dos. And sometimes we forget about the importance of relationship and just sitting down and spending lots of quality of time and quantity of time with our children so that they really engage relationally. And then with that relationship, we have a much bigger bridge to communicate all those powerful things we want to communicate with them.
Karl, we had a interesting article in our local paper over the weekend that deals with the need for more counselors in school because kids are feeling the pressure, and it's a variety of things. A lot of it comes from blended families, a difficult home life, not to mention peer pressure. Is it tougher being a kid today, you think, than it was, say, 10 years ago?
Well, you know, I think for me growing up, I think it's probably tougher now for my kids than it was for me growing up. You know, I think that kids are bombarded with so many different stimuli and situations, and they're indoctrinated with, you know, Hannah Montana and, you know, all those TV shows that give them the idea that they can be anything and everything is at their fingertips. And in reality, sure, you know, anybody can be president, but that's probably not the probability that you're going to have those. But I think kids, because of, you know, wanting to get ahead, you know, seeing all these different opportunities that these young stars have, and thinking, oh, that's what I want to do, that's what I need to do. I have to study, I have to, you know, take 3 instruments, I have to play on every team, I have to just join up for every club. So just in general, I think the expectations of them are higher. But as we look at it, it seems like kids today are taking a lot longer to grow up. So whenever they get their first, you know, they get their license, to get their first job, you know, going to school, how fast it takes them to get through school, getting married, getting kids, actually moving out of the house. So many kids are coming back after college and waiting a while to move out of the house. So even though it's taking longer for them to actually grow up, we're asking them to make a lot more mature decisions at an earlier age. So whether it's sex, whether it's drugs, because of the single-parent homes having to sort of take a more leadership role in the house, and for boys to be maybe that sort of, you know, father kind of role in the house, we're asking them to take on those decisions at, you know, 11, 12, 13, whereas I didn't really have to make that many decisions about sex or drugs till I was more into high school. Whereas now we see kids in late elementary school and in middle school faced and confronted with, you know, heroin, you know, in their middle school. Whereas, you know, that really wasn't in my middle school growing up.
You know, we last week or so, we had a very traumatic scene here in Oregon with another school shooting, unfortunately, and both parents are just totally shocked. What's going on here? What's your interpretation of this? I mean, I realize that sometimes it's copycat, but what is it in a kid to think that they have to kill to be seen or something like? I don't know. I don't understand the psychic of it.
Yeah, you know, there's certainly, you know, many complexities. It's not just any one particular issue, but I think, you know, just looking at it from a societal standpoint first, you know, Oregon is a state that actually has okayed physician-assisted suicide. So when we talk about physician-assisted suicide, euthanasia, abortion, you know, we're giving people the message in cloning that life really isn't that valuable. That you know, the sanctity of life is just being compromised. So, you know, first of all, just giving kids that sort of mixed and distorted message, and certainly not a godly message, you know, it influences and it infiltrates into their mentality. Like we talked about, there's a lot of pressure that kids have. You look at video games. You know, a friend was at a birthday party, and some kids were coming up saying to each other, saying, hey, what's your kill rate on such and such a game? And so just the desensitization that those, you know, kind of games, and they seem fun and they seem relatively innocuous, but just the using of guns, the handling of guns, killing people, the blood, the gore, and it, yeah, it's a little bit removed from reality, but for a young kid, sometimes it's hard to distinguish that. There was a killing or stabbing out in Wisconsin of 2 girls that were influenced by this internet character named Slender Man, and their ability to understand reality was starting to get skewed because of these internet things. Then I think you have kids that are, you know, there's a lot of angst, there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of stress. I think with our society becoming more fragmented, the opportunity that people have to have that support network that cares about them, that loves them, that communicates that often and clearly, but it is a person that a kid can go to release some of that anger, some of that frustration, some of that pressure. It isn't there. So we have kids that sort of keep a lot of stuff inside, and most people don't have much room to keep stuff inside, so they're going to blow at some point. Now, whether they blow in a temper tantrum or whether they blow in, you know, an extreme situation like this, certainly the norm isn't an extreme situation, but we see people that get bullied and they bully, or they have stress and they lash out in a whether it's a crying episode or they're cutting themselves, as a girl or as a boy getting into fights or have these extreme physical events. I think that's that volcano blowing from just trying to keep too much of that pressure cooped up inside.
Is bullying as epidemic as some claimed it to be?
Oh, I think it certainly is. I mean, I was in a situation a couple years ago where, a police officer was coming to give a talk in class about drugs and alcohol and the DARE program that they use in this area of the country. I don't know if it's used out there, but there was a kid that was sort of fidgeting in class, and the police, and this was like a 5th or 6th grade class, and the police officer said, "Hey, what's the matter? You didn't take your medication today?"
Oh.
Now I don't know if that kid was and it was sort of comical, and I think he was trying to make, a connection with the kids, and but yet that's bullying, and so he's coming to give talks about bullying and stress and how to be able to make a good decision, but yet that's the bullying that went on in the class, and so nobody's really going to question this police officer, in this situation, but whether that kid had ADD or not, or whether he was just a little bit misbehaved or was losing concentration or just fiddling around, I don't know, but yet, that kind of comment. Boy, wow. That that's bullying. But I think we have that so much, and people, it just becomes, we're so used to it. Unless it's really physical, most people don't really value it and take it seriously. If it's a racial kind of slur or it's a religious slur and sort of falls in that hate crime situation of gays or lesbians or ethnic groups, then I think we take that more seriously. But some of the verbal and psychological, emotional stuff, especially with all the social media that kids get excluded from, they took they had to close down something. And my daughter's in middle school. They had to close down something because girls were taking pictures of other people's what they were wearing, and then they were making comments on it, and then passing that around through the social media, through Pinterest and Instagram. And so then they had to take that process out of the middle school and not allow them to access those kind of things just because of the bullying that was going on with these girls in these peer groups.
Karl, what would you say to the parent that is beginning to sense their child slipping through their fingers? They're just not communicating. They're seemingly, there's a gradual shutdown and becoming introverted and locked upstairs in their room. Countless parents go through this and they try everything and it just seems not to work. What's your recommendation?
Yeah, obviously for those people that are very young, have very young kids at home, the more work you do early, the less work you have to do later. So this is something that certainly compounds as a child gets older. Once they start reaching that, late elementary and middle school and they become more isolative, there's still certainly hope. There's a lot of opportunity that we have still in those situations, but the process becomes harder because we have to sort of overturn and search for, some other things. Again, that relationship, is so key, both our relationship with God and being able to have a peace, because this is God's child more than they're our child. So to recognize, boy, he's jumping in there and he's going to fight and advocate for their child even way more than we are. It's very, hope-giving and encouraging, to me as a parent, regardless of how many mistakes I'm going to make in the parenting process. But being able to, dive in with that kid and just start to, what are ways that you can make relationship? What are ways that you can engage with them and the things that they like, whether they like music? I have 3 daughters. I'm a sports maniac. I thought I would always have 5 boys and just play basketball with them all the time, but God gave me 3 daughters. So I learned how to braid hair. I learned how to do nails. I learned, I don't like music at all, but I learned to listen to a clarinet, listen to a violin, listen to the piano and those kind of things as they engaged in acting and the arts and those kind of aspects that weren't, part of my sweet spot. But trying to find out what is your kid's interest, being able to help them, engage and use that as an opportunity to build those bridges of communication, and never think you're condescending to a child when you say, hey, look, you look nice today, or, that was nice the way you set the table, or I love you, I care for you, I really value you, I'm so thankful that God gave you to me. Sometimes we think we're condescending or we're saying things that they already know, but no kid can ever hear those kind of things enough, and especially whenever in those middle school ages, so much of life is changing. Every day they wake up with a new pimple, a new hair, a new change in their body, or a new change in their social or their academic life. So to have that consistency at home, to have that, whether that's a consistent dinner time where you can have conversation and you get together and you praise and and connect with each other, but to hear those valuable statements of affirmation, of love, of care, of connection, no kid can ever hear those enough whenever their life around them is all changing changing, to be able to know that you're on their side and you're there and you're going to advocate for them no matter what. That's just a powerful message to be able to give to a kid.
What would you say to a parent to say to their teenager if one of their fellow students was involved in a school shooting or even suicide, and their world is rocked? How would you instruct a parent to deal with their child on that?
Yeah, boy, that's you know, in the immediate situation, you certainly want to be you know, caring, you know, loving. You know, no emotional reaction is abnormal. You know, some kids will be quiet and won't say anything because they don't know what to say, or they're just sort of processing it internally. Some might be overtly crying or sad or sullen. Some might be angry and frustrated and want to go out and get the perpetrator in the situation. So no emotional reaction is abnormal. We want to, you know, as a parent, we want to let them know that, hey, you know, these emotions are your warning system that God gave you to let you know that something's not going right. You know, so how do we allow that person to talk about the situation and then help them understand, you know, what might be going on in that person's, you know, the perpetrator's life. Ongoing, we want to be able to let our kids know that we aren't entitled to anything, you know, that all we have is a blessing. And sometimes I think we get caught up in I need, or I should have my health, I should have my friends, I should have school, I should have a car, I should have, instead of, well, no, this is all blessing and I'm not promised anything. So how to cherish the things that we do have, and how to help your child develop that spiritual radar to be able to understand and look at things through God's lenses, not through our me-centered lenses. You know, certainly those aren't the immediate kind of communications that you want to have with your child, but those are ongoing kind of growth and opportunity that you want to be able to build into them. And forgiveness. Forgiveness is a powerful thing. You want to teach your kids how to forgive. Forgive doesn't mean you forget. Forgive doesn't mean you're condoning the situation, but forgive is a powerful thing that you can do for yourself, where you're not harboring the bitterness and revenge that you have in your heart sometimes whenever a close friend is, you know, goes through something like this. But you want to give God whatever that retribution that needs to happen, or hearing I'm sorry or whatever. Let God extract that. He's way bigger than us. He's way more powerful. That's his jurisdiction. Let him go after that. I see so many kids and so many families just get caught up in the bitterness and the revenge and have trouble forgiving, whether it's little things or whether it's big things. That just eats at them and gnaws at them long term, and really interferes with relationships in significant ways.
Wow, fascinating. How do people correspond with you these days?
Yeah, lighthousenetwork.org. You can go there. A lot of these parenting tips we have under free resources. So go look at our website. If you know somebody who's struggling, you have a loved one, whether that's a family member or you know, a close friend that's struggling, call our helpline. Our helpline number is there. We got Dr. Dave and our care guys that are on the line to be able to help you navigate these situations and to search out some coaching. You know, as we talked about these difficult situations, having a coach is never a problem. Whenever we want to learn the piano, when we want to learn a sport, we want to learn how to act, we go for coaching. And so whenever you're having troubles with life events or situations, get a coach, whether that's a coach through your church or a professional coach and counselor. It's never a problem to have too many coaches in your life. And so reach out our helpline, go to on web. We have a daily devotional that is written about these kind of daily problems.
All right, so that's lighthousenetwork.org. Thank you, Karl. Good to see you again. I want to have you back, and we'll deal with teenagers and addictions and parents. I think that would be a big topic to talk about.
Very much. Hey, Perry, you have a great one, and I love your ministry.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, friend. God bless. All right, we'll see you next time on Focus Today.
Hi, I'm Jim, and I work at the Dove TV. Every weekday between 6 and 8 a.m., our award-winning news and sports team bring you the best morning show around. It's live, it's honest, and it's a whole lot of fun. And you help make it happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to air local programs that share your voice by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us.